The waiting room of Mitchell and Associates smelled like leather and old money. Taylor Morrison sat in the stiff-backed chair, smoothing the creases of her Target blazer for the third time. Across from her, her brother Riley scrolled through his phone, one leg crossed over the other, his Italian loafers probably worth more than her monthly rent. Their mother, Patricia, kept checking her reflection in her compact mirror. She'd gotten her hair done that morning. Taylor could smell the hairspray from 3 feet away. Their father, Robert, read the Wall Street Journal with the careful attention of a man who needed everyone to know he read the Wall Street Journal. Nobody had said a word to Taylor since she'd arrived 20 minutes ago. The Morrison family. A paralegal appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Mitchell is ready for you." The conference room was all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown San Francisco. Taylor took the seat furthest from the door, a habit from childhood, always positioning herself for an easy exit. Riley sat at the head of the table like he owned the place. Their parents flanked him on either side. Gerald Mitchell entered with a manila folder thick enough to hurt someone if you threw it hard enough. Taylor had thought about that more than once during the 3 weeks since Grandpa Henry's funeral. "Thank you all for coming," Mitchell began, settling into his chair. "I know this is a difficult time." Patricia dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, though Taylor hadn't seen any actual tears. Her mother had cried at the funeral, the pretty kind of crying that made your eyes sparkle and your nose stay unread. Taylor had cried in her car afterward, the ugly kind that left your face blotchy for hours. "Henry's will is straightforward," Mitchell continued, opening the folder. "He was very specific about his wishes." Taylor's phone buzzed. A text from her boss. "Where are you?" The Henderson report was due at 9. She typed back quickly. "Family emergency. Sent it last night. Check your spam folder." "To my grandson, Riley Morrison." Mitchell read, "I leave my home at 2847 Pacific Avenue, San Francisco, California." Riley didn't even look up from his phone, like he'd been expecting it, like it was his right. The house was worth at least $680,000. Taylor had looked it up on Zillow 2 days after Grandpa died, sitting in her studio apartment in Daly City, trying not to feel bitter about it. "To my son Robert Morrison and daughter-in-law Patricia Morrison, I leave my investment portfolio currently valued at approximately $670,000 managed by Fidelity Investments." Her father nodded once satisfied. Her mother's shoulders relaxed. "And to my granddaughter Taylor Morrison." Mitchell paused, looking at her over his reading glasses. "I leave the Henry Morrison Education Trust Fund." The room went quiet. Taylor felt everyone's eyes on her. Even Riley looked up. "The what?" Patricia asked. "The Education Trust was established in 2003, Mitchell explained. Henry seeded it with $50,000 and allowed it to compound over 21 years. He never withdrew from it. As of last week's valuation, the fund is worth $1,247,000. Taylor's ears started ringing. She heard the number, but it didn't make sense. $1.2 million. "I'm sorry," her father said, his voice sharp. "Did you say over $1 million? "Yes, sir." "For what purpose?" Patricia's tissue was forgotten now. "An education fund. Taylor's been out of school for years." "The fund's charter allows for flexible use," Mitchell said. "Educational expenses, career development, housing, or investment purposes. The sole beneficiary has full discretion upon receipt." Riley's jaw tightened. Her father's face had gone red. Her mother's perfectly manicured hands gripped the edge of the table. Taylor couldn't breathe. Grandpa left her more than he'd left everyone else combined. "When does she get access?" her father asked. "The trust transfers to her control 30 days from today," Mitchell said. "There's a brief probate period, standard procedure, but the will is very clear and well documented. I don't anticipate any issues." "We need to discuss this," Patricia said quickly. "As a family, this is a lot of money for someone so young." "Taylor is 28 years old," Mitchell interrupted gently. "She's well above the age of majority. The trust is hers unconditionally." Taylor found her voice. "Did Grandpa leave any explanation, a letter or something?" Mitchell pulled out a small envelope. "He did, actually, marked for Taylor only." He slid it across the table. The handwriting on the front was Grandpa's neat block letters that looked like they'd been printed by a machine. She'd always loved his handwriting. So certain, so steady. She tucked it into her purse without opening it. Not here. Not with all of them watching. "Are we done?" Riley asked, standing up. "There are some documents to sign," Mitchell said. "But yes, that covers the primary distribution." Taylor signed where the paralegal pointed her hand, shaking slightly. The whole time she could feel her family staring at her. When she looked up, her mother's expression had changed into something Taylor couldn't quite read. Something calculating. They left the building together, the four of them, but nobody suggested lunch. Nobody suggested anything. "We should talk," Patricia said as they reached the parking garage. "About the trust, about what Grandpa would have really wanted." "I think the will made that pretty clear," Taylor said. "You know what your mother means," her father said. "This kind of money requires responsible management." "I'll figure it out." Taylor. Riley put his hand on her shoulder, the first physical contact he'd initiated with her in years. "We're family. We should stick together on this. Grandpa would have wanted that." She shrugged his hand off. "I'll see you guys later." Taylor drove home in a daze, barely remembering the route. Her apartment, all 450 square feet of it, had never felt smaller. She dropped her purse on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and just stood there. $1.2 million. She pulled out the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded once. "Dear Taylor, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you've just sat through the will reading. I imagine your parents and brother are feeling pretty surprised right about now. I want you to know something. I didn't do this to hurt them or to cause problems. I did it because you earned it. Not by being perfect, not by saying the right things or wearing the right clothes. You earned it by showing up, by working hard, by being honest even when honesty didn't get you anywhere. Your parents raised Riley to expect everything. They raised you to expect nothing. That wasn't fair, and I couldn't fix it while you were growing up. But I can fix it now. There's a green binder in the box I gave you 5 years ago, the one you probably stuffed in a closet and forgot about. Get it out. Read it carefully, especially page 47. Trust everyone, but verify everything. Love, Grandpa." Henry Taylor stood there, tears streaming down her face, reading it 3 more times. Then she went to her closet and started digging. The box was under a stack of winter clothes she never wore. San Francisco winters didn't require real coats. Inside was the green binder exactly where she'd left it. She'd looked through it once, years ago, seen a bunch of official-looking documents and decided it was just Grandpa being thorough. Now she opened it with purpose. The first section was basic copies of his will from different years showing how it had evolved. The second section was investment statements. The third was property records. Page 47 was marked with a yellow post-it note. Section 7, subsection D. She read it once, read it again. Her heart started pounding. Any beneficiary who initiates or participates in legal action to deprive another beneficiary of their rightful designated share shall immediately and irrevocably forfeit their entire interest in this trust. Said forfeiture shall be immediate upon filing of said legal action regardless of outcome. In the margin in Grandpa's handwriting, "Keep this safe, kiddo. Trust but verify. H.M." Taylor sat on her bed, the binder open in her lap. Grandpa knew. Somehow he knew they might come after her inheritance, and he'd left her a weapon. Her phone rang. Her mother. She almost didn't answer. "Taylor, honey." Patricia's voice was honey-sweet, the voice she used at church. "Your father and I were talking. Why don't you come over Saturday? We should discuss the inheritance as a family." "What's there to discuss?" "Well, sweetheart, this is a lot of money. We just want to make sure you understand the responsibilities that come with it." "I understand fine, Mom." "Do you? Have you ever managed more than a few $1,000s at once? Do you know anything about investment strategies or tax implications?" Taylor closed her eyes. "I'll figure it out. We just want to help. 3 o'clock on Saturday. We'll order lunch." "Who's we?" A pause. "The family. Your father, Riley, and I." "Okay, I'll be there." She hung up and immediately called her best friend Jenna. "You got how much?" Jenna shrieked into the phone. "Taylor, oh my God, you're rich." "I don't feel rich. I feel like I'm about to throw up." "Why, this is amazing. You can quit your job. You can travel. You can... My family is pissed." "So screw them. They've treated you like garbage your whole life." Taylor laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "Jenna, I don't know what to do." "You do what you always do. You work hard, you're smart, and you don't let anyone push you around." "Easy for you to say." "Babe, I've known you since freshman year of college. I watched you work full-time and take a full course load. I watched you live on ramen and still manage to get a 3.8 GPA. You can handle this." After they hung up, Taylor opened her laptop and started Googling. What to do with inheritance, how to protect inherited money, trust fund management. 3 hours later, her eyes burned and her head hurt, but she had a plan. She'd talk to a financial advisor. She'd pay off her student loans. She'd maybe finally buy a real couch instead of the IKEA futon she'd been sleeping on for 6 years. But first, she had to get through Saturday. Taylor couldn't sleep Friday night. She kept thinking about that yellow Post-it note about Grandpa's handwriting about the forfeiture clause. Any beneficiary who initiates legal action. Why would he include that? Had something happened before? Had someone tried to contest something? She got up at 2 a.m. and made tea, sitting at her tiny kitchen table with the binder open in front of her. That's when she started really reading the earlier sections, the ones she'd skimmed before. There were multiple versions of the will dated over 2 decades. In 2003, everything was split evenly. In 2008, the Education Trust appeared for the first time. In 2015, the portions shifted. Riley got the house. Her parents got investments. She got the trust. In 2018, the forfeiture clause was added. What happened in 2018, Taylor pulled out her phone and scrolled back through old photos. 2018. She'd been 22, finishing her bachelor's degree at San Jose State. Riley had been 25 2 years into his startup that their parents kept funding. There were photos from Riley's 25th birthday party at some restaurant in Nob Hill. She hadn't been invited, but Riley had posted about it 30 people bottles of champagne, a cake that probably cost more than her textbooks that semester. No photos of her own birthday that year. She'd worked a double shift at the grocery store and bought herself a cupcake from Safeway. She kept scrolling, found a photo from one of her Sunday lunches with Grandpa. Lou's Cafe, their regular spot. He'd ordered her the Monte Cristo sandwich she loved. They'd talked about her classes, about the research paper she was writing on estate law for her business law elective. Estate law. She'd almost forgotten she'd gotten an A on that paper. Wait. Taylor opened her laptop and searched her cloud storage. Found the paper. Inheritance Disputes and Family Dynamics. A case study analysis. She'd written about the Helmsley and Getty cases, famous families torn apart by money. She'd sent a copy to Grandpa. He'd told her he was proud of her. Had that given him the idea? Had her paper about inheritance disputes made him realize he needed to protect his own will? Her tea went cold as she reread her own work from 6 years ago. She'd been so naive then, thinking these things only happened to rich families. Famous families. Not people like them. Saturday morning came too fast. Taylor changed outfits 4 times before settling on jeans and a sweater, not too fancy, not too casual. She didn't want to look like she was trying to impress them, but she also didn't want to give them ammunition to call her immature or irresponsible. The drive to her parents' house in Pacific Heights felt longer than usual. She'd grown up in this house, the stately Victorian with the bay windows and the garden her mother obsessed over. But she'd never felt like it was home. Home was Grandpa's apartment in the sunset with the old furniture and the smell of coffee and the walls covered in family photos that actually included her. She parked on the street and sat in her car for 5 minutes, breathing. You can do this. Just hear what they have to say. You don't have to agree to anything. Patricia opened the door before Taylor even knocked. Sweetheart, come in, come in. We ordered from that Italian place you like. Taylor didn't like Italian food particularly, but it didn't seem worth correcting. The dining room table was set formally, the good china cloth napkins, wine glasses. In the middle of the table was a stack of papers. Her father sat at the head of the table, reading something on his iPad. Riley was already there, playing with his phone. He looked up when she entered and gave her a tight smile. Taylor, her father gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Let's eat first, then we'll talk. The meal was awkward. They made small talk about nothing. The weather, the traffic, some scandal with someone's daughter that Taylor didn't know. Nobody mentioned the inheritance. Nobody mentioned Grandpa. Finally, Patricia cleared the plates, refusing Taylor's offer to help, and returned with coffee. That's when her father pulled the stack of papers toward him. So, he said, we've been thinking about the situation. What situation? Taylor asked, even though she knew. The trust, the money Grandpa left you. Okay. It's a lot of responsibility, Taylor. More than you've ever had to handle before. I'm aware. Riley leaned forward. We're not trying to control you or anything. We just want to help. Help how? Her father slid a document across the table. We've had our attorney draft what we're calling a family harmony agreement. Taylor picked it up. It was 5 pages, single-spaced, dense with legal language. She'd taken enough business law classes to understand most of it, but she read slowly, carefully. The summary was simple enough. Taylor would transfer the trust into a family management account. Her father and Riley would be co-administrators. They would invest it responsibly for the family's collective benefit. Taylor would receive a monthly stipend of $2,000. $2,000 a month from her own $1.2 million. This is a joke, right? She looked up. It's a prudent solution, her father said. You get a steady income without the stress of managing a large sum. We handle the investments, the taxes, all of it. And what do you get? The satisfaction of keeping this family together. Her mother set her hand over her heart. Taylor flipped to page 3, found the clause she was looking for. It says here that you have sole discretion over all investment decisions, and that I have no voting rights or power to override management decisions. Standard language, her father said, so I have no control over my own money. Our money, Riley corrected. It's family money. Grandpa's legacy should benefit all of us. But he left it to me. He wasn't thinking clearly toward the end, Patricia said softly. You know how old people can get. Confused. They don't always see the big picture. Taylor felt something cold settle in her stomach. Grandpa wasn't confused. I saw him 2 days before he died. We had lunch. He told me about the trip he and Grandma took to Italy in 1962. He remembered the name of the hotel, the restaurant where they ate what they ordered. He was sharp as ever. Sweetheart, I know you want to believe that. I'm not signing this. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Taylor, her father said, his voice harder now. Be reasonable. I am being reasonable. This agreement is completely one-sided. You want me to hand over my inheritance and trust you to give me an allowance like I'm 16. Because you've never been good with money. Patricia's voice rose. You're still in that terrible apartment. You drive a car that's 15 years old. You dress like... She stopped herself, but the damage was done. Like what, Mom? Like someone who works for a living. Riley stood up and came around the table, sitting in the chair next to her. His voice was gentle. Taylor, come on. Don't be selfish. This is about keeping Grandpa's legacy intact, as a family, together. By taking it away from the person he chose to give it to. By managing it properly, her father said. You want to throw it away on whatever catches your eye. You have no experience, no knowledge of investments. And you do. Her father's face went red. I've been managing money longer than you've been alive. Taylor stood up, the unsigned agreement still in her hand. I need to think about it. There's nothing to think about, her mother said, standing too. Taylor, if you don't sign this, we'll have to take other measures. What other measures? A man in a gray suit stepped out from the kitchen. Taylor jumped. She hadn't even known anyone else was in the house. This is Richard Chen, her mother said. Our attorney. Richard Chen looked like every corporate lawyer Taylor had ever seen on TV. Expensive suit, expensive watch expression that said he billed $500 an hour and knew it. Ms. Morrison, he said, offering his hand. Taylor didn't take it. I've reviewed your grandfather's estate and I have some concerns about the circumstances surrounding the trust's creation. What concerns? Whether your grandfather was competent to make such significant financial decisions, whether there was undue influence. Taylor's mouth went dry. Undue influence by who? By you, he said simply. You spent more time with him than anyone else in his final years. You isolated him from the family. It's possible you manipulated an elderly man for financial gain. That's insane. Is it? Richard pulled out a folder. We have documentation that you visited him multiple times a week, that you were present when he met with his estate attorney, that you received gifts from him that other family members didn't receive. Those were Sunday lunches, and he paid for my textbooks a few times because I couldn't afford... She stopped, turned to look at her parents. You're going to sue me. We're going to petition for a conservatorship, Richard said. For your protection, of course. Given your limited financial experience, a court may determine that this inheritance should be managed by more qualified individuals until you're ready to handle it yourself. And if I sign your agreement, then there's no need for legal action, her mother said. We can handle this as a family. Taylor looked at all of them, her mother with her perfect hair and her fake sympathy, her father with his righteous anger, Riley with his weak apologetic smile, Richard Chen with his folder full of lies. I need 72 hours to think about it, she said. 48, Richard countered. 72, or I'll assume you're filing the petition anyway and act accordingly. She walked out before anyone could respond. The unsigned agreement crumpled in her fist. Taylor drove to Lou's Cafe without deciding to. Her hands just turned the wheel, her foot found the pedals, and suddenly she was parked outside the tiny diner where she'd spent every other Sunday for 10 years. Inside, the smell of coffee and bacon wrapped around her like a hug. She slid into the booth she and Grandpa always shared, back corner window view. The waitress, Dolores, smiled at her sadly. "Haven't seen you in a while, honey. I was sorry to hear about Henry." "Thanks, Dolores." "The usual?" Taylor didn't even know if she was hungry. "Sure." While she waited, she uncrumpled the family harmony agreement and read it again. Every clause was designed to give her parents complete control while making it sound reasonable. For your benefit. To protect you. To ensure responsible management. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mother. "We're only trying to help. Your father and I love you." Another text from Riley. "Just think about it. We're family." She turned her phone face down on the table. When the Monte Cristo sandwich arrived, Grandpa's favorite, the one he'd always ordered for her, Taylor couldn't eat it. She just stared at it, remembering. "Your parents don't understand you," Grandpa had said once. "They look at Riley and see everything they wanted to be. They look at you and see everything they're afraid of." "What do you mean?" "You remind them that life doesn't owe you anything, that you have to work for it. That's scary to people who've always had it easy." "Did they have it easy?" Grandpa had looked away. "That's their story to tell, not mine." But he'd never looked at her quite the same way after that conversation, like he was seeing something she couldn't see yet. Taylor pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. $3,847 in checking, $12,200 in savings, 3 years of careful deposits, her emergency fund. She'd been so proud of that number. Now it seemed ridiculous. Pathetic. No. She shut down that voice. That was their voice, not hers. She'd built that savings working 40 hours a week while taking 5 classes. Every dollar represented something she'd earned. And now they wanted to take it. Not just the inheritance, though that was bad enough. They wanted to prove she was incompetent, manipulative, a gold digger who'd conned an old man. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Ms. Morrison, this is Richard Chen. I wanted to reach out personally, attorney to client, I suppose." "I'm not your client." "Of course, poor phrasing. I wanted to reach out as someone who has your best interests at heart." "Right. I've seen a lot of family disputes over estates. They get ugly. They destroy relationships that can never be repaired. I'd hate to see that happen to your family." "Then don't sue me." "The conservatorship petition is for your protection, but I understand it feels adversarial. What if we modified the agreement, say $3,000 a month instead of $2,000, and you get quarterly reports on the investments? Still no control." "Taylor, may I call you Taylor? You have to understand. Your parents are scared. Riley's business failed. They're underwater on their mortgage, and they're looking at an uncertain retirement. They see this money as a life raft. So I should drown instead." "No one's drowning, but sharing the life raft means everyone survives." Taylor hung up. She sat there for another 20 minutes, drinking coffee that had gone cold, watching people come and go. Normal people with normal problems. Nobody trying to steal their inheritance. Nobody calling them incompetent. Finally, she paid the check, left Dolores a big tip, bigger than she could really afford, and drove home. In her apartment, she spread the binder out on her bed and went through it page by page. The forfeiture clause was on page 47, but what else had she missed? Page 52. A list of Grandpa's assets over the years, tracked meticulously. She could see when he started the trust in 2003 how he'd added to it annually. Small amounts at first, $2,000, $3,000, then larger amounts. By 2020, he was adding $25,000 a year. Where had that money come from? Page 68, insurance policies. Grandpa had life insurance, $50,000 split evenly among Robert, Patricia, and Riley. Not her. The house, the investments, and the insurance all went to them. Just the trust went to her. He'd divided things up, given them the tangible assets, the ones they expected. Saved the real value for her because he knew she wouldn't expect anything. Page 73, a letter from Margaret Hoffman, attorney at law, dated March 2018. Dear Henry, per your request, I've drafted the amendment to your trust with the forfeiture clause. I want to confirm this is what you want. Such clauses are unusual and can be challenged. You should understand that including this language suggests you anticipate conflict over your estate. His response was paperclipped to the letter. Taylor recognized his handwriting. Margaret, I appreciate your concern. But I know my family. I've seen what money does to people. This clause isn't about punishment. It's about consequences. If they can't respect what I've decided, they don't deserve to benefit from it. Please proceed as drafted. Henry, Taylor read it 3 times. Her hands were shaking. Grandpa knew. He absolutely knew they might do this, and he'd prepared for it. She picked up her phone and called the one person she knew who might understand. Jake, it's Taylor. Taylor Morrison, from Professor Reed's Business Law Study Group. Taylor, hey, it's been forever. What's up? Jake Chen, no relation to Richard, thank God, had graduated San Jose State the same year she did. They'd bonded over late-night study sessions and their shared confusion over tort law. He'd gone straight to law school while she'd gone to work. She'd seen on LinkedIn that he'd passed the bar 8 months ago. I need legal advice, or maybe just someone who speaks legal. Are you free for coffee? They met at a Starbucks near his office in San Mateo. Jake looked good, more professional than she remembered, in a button-down and slacks instead of his old college hoodies. He'd always been smart, maybe the smartest person in their study group. She'd been surprised when he went into law instead of something like engineering. So, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. What kind of trouble are you in? The inheriting money from my grandfather kind. She explained everything. The will, the trust, the family harmony agreement, the conservatorship threat. Jake listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes on his phone. When she finished, he sat back. Wow. Yeah. Can I see the forfeiture clause? She pulled out the relevant pages. Jake read them carefully, then read them again. This is actually really well drafted. Whoever wrote this knew what they were doing. If your family files a petition to contest the will or seek conservatorship, and this clause is properly integrated into the trust document, they forfeit their entire share. So it's enforceable. Probably. I'd need to see the whole trust document, and you'd want an estate's attorney to confirm, but based on this, yeah, it's enforceable. Taylor felt something loosen in her chest. So if they sue me, they lose everything. The house, the investments, all of it. And they don't know. Did the estate attorney tell them about this clause during the will reading? Taylor thought back. No, he just read the distributions. Nobody asked questions. Then no, they probably don't know. This wasn't in the summary documents. I don't think so. I only found it because Grandpa told me to read the binder carefully. Jake's expression changed. Wait, he told you to read it after he died. She showed him Grandpa's letter. Jake read it twice. Taylor, he said slowly, your grandfather was preparing you for a legal battle. All this, the letter, the binder, the forfeiture clause, this is a roadmap. He knew they'd come after the money, and he gave you the tools to fight back. But why didn't he just, I don't know, leave me everything? Why give them anything at all? Because then they'd definitely contest the will. This way they got something substantial. The house alone is worth more than most people's retirement savings. He gave them enough that a court wouldn't look at the will and think he was being vindictive or mentally incompetent. But the trust is worth more, which they didn't know until the reading. By then it's too late. The will's executed, everything's divided. If they want to fight it, they have to trigger the forfeiture clause. Taylor's mind was racing. What should I do? Do you want to fight them? I want them to leave me alone. That's not an option anymore. They've already threatened a conservatorship. Your 48 hours, 72 hours, that's just a countdown. They're filing either way. So what do I do? Jake pulled out his laptop. You prepare, and you warn them. Send them a letter, certified mail, so you have proof explaining the forfeiture clause. Give them a chance to back down. And if they don't, then you enforce it, and you'll need a lawyer. I can recommend someone. I want you. Jake blinked. Taylor, I've been a lawyer for 8 months. I do corporate contracts and business filings. I've never litigated. But you understand this. You understand them. She leaned forward. Jake, I can't afford some big firm charging $500 an hour, and I trust you. Please. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but if this goes to court, we're getting co-counsel. Someone with trial experience. Deal. Deal. They spent the next 2 hours drafting the letter. By the time they finished, it was dark outside, and Taylor's coffee had gone cold. The letter was simple, one page stating the facts. Section 7, subsection D exists. Any legal action to deprive Taylor of her inheritance triggers forfeiture. They have 72 hours to confirm in writing that they will not file any petition or contest. Send it tonight, Jake said. Certified mail return receipt requested. Copy all of them, your parents, your brother, and Richard Chen. And then we wait, and we prepare for war. Taylor drove home with the letters in her passenger seat already addressed and stamped. She dropped them in the mailbox outside her apartment building and watched them disappear into the slot. No turning back now. Upstairs, she opened her laptop and started Googling. How to defend against conservatorship petition. Proving mental competency. Undue influence in estate law. Her phone buzzed at 11 p.m. Her mother. We haven't heard from you. Your father is very disappointed. You have until Monday at 5 p.m. to sign the agreement. After that, we'll have no choice but to protect you legally. Taylor typed back, check your mail. Then she blocked the number. She was exhausted, but she couldn't sleep. Instead, she kept reading, kept researching. At 2 a.m., she found a forum for people dealing with family conservatorship battles. The stories were horrifying adult children trapped in legal guardianships, unable to access their own money, make their own decisions, treated like they were incompetent or insane. One post stood out. They'll use everything against you. Every mistake you ever made, every job you left, every relationship that didn't work out. They'll twist it all to make you look unstable. Document everything. Save every email, every text. You'll need proof that you're the sane one. Taylor looked around her tiny apartment. What evidence did she have of her competency? Her job was stable. She'd been there for 3 years. Her finances were in order. No debt except student loans, bills paid on time. She had references, friends a clean record. But would that be enough? She pulled up her bank statements and started printing. Her employment records, her college transcripts, her rental history, everything she could think of that proved she was a responsible adult. By the time she finished, she had a stack of papers 2 inches thick, and the sun was starting to rise. Monday came too fast. The 72 hours passed in a blur of anxiety and sleepless nights. Taylor checked her mailbox obsessively, waiting for the certified mail receipts that would prove her family had received the warning letter. Tuesday, Patricia's receipt arrived. Wednesday, Robert's receipt came through. Thursday, Riley's. Friday morning, Richard Chen's receipt showed up. All of them had signed for the letters. All of them knew about the forfeiture clause. Now she just had to wait. Friday at 4:47 p.m., there was a knock on her door. Taylor looked through the peephole and saw a woman in business casual holding a manila envelope. Process server. Her hands shook as she signed for it. The woman gave her a sympathetic look. She must have delivered hundreds of these, must have seen this expression on hundreds of faces, and left without a word. Taylor stood in her doorway holding the envelope. For a moment, she considered not opening it. If she didn't open it, she could pretend it wasn't real. Pretend her family hadn't actually done this. But Grandpa's voice echoed in her head. Trust but verify. She opened it. Petition for appointment of conservator of the person and estate. Case number PES 2024-004729, Superior Court of California County of San Francisco. Petitioners: Patricia Morrison, Robert Morrison, Riley Morrison, Respondent Taylor Morrison, 19 pages. She forced herself to read every word. The allegations were brutal. Paragraph after paragraph painting her as reckless, irresponsible, mentally unstable. They claimed she had exhibited poor judgment in financial matters, that she lived below her means in an unhealthy manner, suggesting inability to properly utilize available resources, that she had isolated herself from family support systems. They attached bank statements, her bank statements. How did they get those? Then she remembered her mother was a co-signer on her first checking account opened when she was 16. Taylor had never closed it, just stopped using it when she opened her own account at a different bank. Her parents must have requested the records. The statements showed the truth: careful budgeting, regular savings, no overdrafts. But they'd highlighted different transactions: $3.47 at McDonald's, $8.99 at Dollar Store, $124.58 days at Goodwill. Beneath each highlight, a note: evidence of inability to maintain appropriate standard of living despite adequate income. They were using her frugality against her. There was more. An affidavit from Dr. Philip Zhang, a geriatric psychiatrist. Taylor had never heard of him. According to the document, he'd examined Grandpa Henry in March 2019 and noted mild cognitive impairment confusion regarding dates and recent events and susceptibility to suggestion. She read it 3 times. It was signed notarized official, and it was about to destroy everything. Her phone rang. "Jake, did you get served?" "Yes." Her voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. "Okay, don't panic. Send me everything they filed. I'm going to start on the response." "Jake, they have a doctor's statement. He says Grandpa was confused, susceptible to suggestion. What if the judge believes it?" "Was your grandfather confused in 2019? Taylor thought back. 5 years ago. She'd been 23, working at the grocery store taking classes. She and Grandpa had lunch every other week, like always. They talked about her business law class, about his garden, about a book he was reading about World War II. No, he was completely sharp. We talked about complex things. He remembered details from decades ago. Then we prove that. We get his medical records, we get testimony from people who knew him. One doctor's statement isn't enough to overturn a will, especially when it was written 5 years after the exam. They're going to make me look like I manipulated him. So we make them look like they're lying. Taylor, listen to me. You're a victim here. Don't let them flip the script." After they hung up, Taylor sat on her futon and cried for the first time since Grandpa's funeral. Not the pretty crying her mother did. Ugly, gasping sobs that hurt her chest and made her nose run. She cried for the grandfather who'd loved her. For the family she'd never really had. For the person she'd been 3 weeks ago, who'd thought things might finally get better. When she was done, she washed her face, made coffee, and got to work. Monday morning, Taylor's boss, Sarah, called her into the office before she'd even logged into her computer. "Taylor, we need to talk." Sarah's expression was uncomfortable. She was holding a printout. "What's this about?" Sarah slid the paper across the desk. It was a public records search. Taylor's name, the conservatorship petition, the court case number, all public information. "Is there something going on we should know about?" Taylor's stomach dropped. "It's a family dispute. Over my grandfather's estate. It's not they're making false allegations. I'm fighting it." "I'm sure you are. But Taylor, you work in financial analysis. Our clients trust us with their investment portfolios. If there's a question about your judgment, about your ability to manage money, there's no question. This is my family being greedy. They want my inheritance and they're lying to get it." Sarah looked pained. "I believe you, but it's company policy. Anyone under conservatorship proceedings has to be placed on administrative leave until it's resolved." "How long?" "However long it takes." "Sarah, I need this job. I have rent. I have bills. The leave is paid. You'll still get your salary, but you can't be in the office, can't access client accounts. I'm sorry. It's policy." Taylor cleaned out her desk in a daze. 3 years of work. 3 years of proving herself. Gone because of a lie. In the parking lot, she sat in her car and screamed. Just opened her mouth and let it out all the rage and fear and helplessness. A woman walking by gave her a concerned look. Taylor waved that she was fine and drove away. She was halfway home when her phone started buzzing. Text after text. "Jenna, OMG, just saw Riley's Instagram." "What's happening?" She pulled over and opened Instagram. Riley had posted a photo from 5 years ago, Christmas 2019, the whole family around Grandpa's tree. Everyone smiling. Grandpa in the center looking frail. The caption read, "Family is forever. Grandpa Henry taught us that. Now we're fighting to protect his true wishes from those who would twist them for personal gain. Sometimes love means making hard choices." Hashtag family first, Howard legacy, Howard justice for Henry. 300 likes already, comments pouring in. "Praying for your family. Money changes people. Stay strong. Your grandfather would be proud of you for standing up for what's right." Taylor scrolled through her brother's feed. He'd been posting regularly strategic posts designed to look spontaneous. A photo of him at Grandpa's grave. "Miss you every day." A throwback to a family dinner, simpler times. A quote about family loyalty. She checked her mother's Facebook. Same thing. Patricia had posted a long emotional status about when money tears families apart and praying for those who have lost their way. Dozens of her church friends had commented with support and prayer emojis. They were building a narrative. Poor, concerned family trying to protect their wayward daughter from herself. And Taylor was the villain, the greedy granddaughter who'd manipulated an old man. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer. Taylor Morrison, yes. This is Angela Chen from the San Francisco Chronicle. I'm writing a story about your family's estate dispute. Would you like to comment? How did you get my number? Public records. Ms. Morrison, your family is claiming you exerted undue influence over your grandfather, that you isolated him from his family in his final years. Would you like to respond to those allegations? No comment. She hung up. The phone rang again. Different number. She let it go to voicemail. Then another, and another. She turned her phone off. At home, she opened her laptop. The story was already online. Local family torn apart by inheritance dispute. The article was surprisingly balanced. It quoted the court filings, but also noted that no judgment had been made. Still, the comments section was vicious. She probably convinced him the rest of his family didn't love him. Elder abuse is so common. Good for the family for fighting this. Why do the worst people always get the money? Taylor closed the laptop and lay on her futon staring at the ceiling. Her phone was off, but she could imagine it lighting up with calls and texts, reporters, old friends who'd seen the news, people who wanted the gossip. She'd never felt more alone. The next morning, she turned her phone back on. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, most from numbers she didn't know, but one was from Jenna. Taylor, please call me. I don't care what anyone says. I know you. Call me, she called. Oh, thank God. Jenna sounded close to tears. Are you okay? Define okay. Stupid question. Sorry. I saw the news, saw Riley's posts. Taylor, this is insane. Do people actually believe you manipulated your grandfather? Some people do. Read the comments. Fuck the comments. Those people don't know you. Listen, do you need anything? Money, a place to stay, someone to slash your brother's tires? Despite everything, Taylor laughed. I'm okay. I have Jake helping me with the legal stuff. Jake from our study group. He's a lawyer now. Just passed the bar. He's good, Jenna. He gets it. Okay. But Taylor, maybe you should think about settling. I know you don't want to, but is this worth it? The stress, the publicity, losing your job? I didn't lose my job. I'm on leave. Same difference. Look, you'd still walk away with hundreds of thousands of dollars. You could start over somewhere new, somewhere your family can't touch you. Taylor was quiet for a moment. You think I should give up? I think you should protect yourself. These people, your family, they're vicious. They're destroying your reputation. If you fight them and lose, I won't lose. But if you do, you'll have nothing. No money, no job, no family, and everyone will think you're some kind of con artist. Is your pride worth that? It's not about pride. It's about what's right. Right doesn't pay rent, Taylor. They hung up awkwardly. Taylor knew Jenna meant well. She was trying to be practical protective, but it still stung. Was she being stupid? Should she just take a settlement and walk away? She pulled out Grandpa's letter and read it again. You earned it, not by being perfect, by showing up, by being honest. If she gave up now, she'd be proving them right, proving she wasn't strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough. No, she was fighting. Taylor spent the next 3 days in her apartment barely eating, barely sleeping. Jake had sent her a list of things to document timeline of her relationship with Grandpa, witnesses who could testify to his mental competency, evidence of her own financial responsibility. But she kept coming back to one question. Why were they so desperate? The house was worth $680,000. The investment portfolio was worth $670,000. That was $1.35 million between the three of them. Yes, her trust was worth more, but they weren't exactly broke. Unless they were. Taylor opened her laptop and started searching. Public records were more accessible than most people realized. She started with Riley. His company TechFlow Solutions had been a mobile app startup, something about optimizing workflow for remote teams. Riley had talked about it constantly, how it was going to revolutionize the industry, how investors were lining up, how he'd be a millionaire by 30. She found the business registry. TechFlow Solutions, LLC, registered in Delaware Principal Office in San Francisco. Status dissolved. Dissolution date, July 2023. 4 months ago. She dug deeper, found the California Superior Court records. A lawsuit, Chen Technologies versus TechFlow Solutions and Riley Morrison personally. The complaint was public record. Chen Technologies had provided $200,000 in development services. TechFlow never paid. The court issued a default judgment, $340,000, including interest and legal fees. Riley hadn't just failed. He'd been sued and lost everything. Next, she searched her parents' address, 2847 Pacific Avenue, the house Grandpa had left to Riley. On Zillow, it showed recent activity foreclosure notice filed. She clicked through to the county records. Wells Fargo had filed a notice of default. Amount owed $485,000. The foreclosure sale was scheduled for 90 days out. They were losing the house. Taylor sat back, her mind racing. When had they taken out a mortgage Grandpa had owned that house free and clear? He'd bought it in the 1970s, paid it off in the 80s. She found the mortgage records. Originated in 2019. Borrower Robert Morrison. Amount $550,000. Secured by property at 2847 Pacific Avenue. But Grandpa had still owned the house in 2019. How had her father taken out a mortgage on it? Then she understood. Grandpa must have added Robert to the deed, probably to make inheritance easier. And Robert had immediately borrowed against it. Where had that money gone? She searched Robert Morrison's business history. Found his investment firm, Morrison Capital Management. Small operation managing money for private clients. But the SEC filings showed something interesting. Multiple client complaints filed in 2021 and 2022. Allegations of unauthorized trading, unsuitable recommendations. The firm had settled for $180,000 and shut down 6 months later. Her father wasn't just struggling, he was disgraced. Patricia was harder to research. She'd never worked outside the home, at least not in Taylor's memory. But her LinkedIn profile told a story. Recent activity, likes and comments on articles about rebuilding after financial setback and retirement planning on a limited budget. Taylor did the math. Riley's business judgment, $340,000. Foreclosure on the house, $485,000. Her father's SEC settlement, $180,000. Combined, they needed over $1 million. Their inheritance from Grandpa, $1.35 million. It would barely cover their debts. But Taylor's trust, $1.2 million. Added to theirs, that was $255 million. Enough to pay off everything and have money left over. They weren't being greedy. They were drowning. And they thought pulling her under would save them. Taylor called Jake immediately. I found something. Actually, I found everything. She walked him through the discoveries. Riley's lawsuit, the foreclosure, her father's SEC problems. Jake was quiet as she talked, and she could hear him typing. So they need the money, he said finally. That explains the desperation. But Taylor, this could help us. It shows motive. They're not concerned family members, they're creditors trying to access funds that aren't theirs. Can we use this in court? Absolutely. It goes to their credibility. They're claiming they want to protect you, but really they need your money to save themselves. That's a completely different story. What about the doctor's statement about Grandpa being confused? I made some calls. Dr. Philip Zhang retired 2 years ago and moved to Portland. I have his phone number. Want me to call him, or do you want to? Taylor thought about it. I'll do it. He might remember Grandpa. They met in person. She called that afternoon. An older man answered on the third ring. Dr. Zhang, my name is Taylor Morrison. I'm Henry Morrison's granddaughter. Morrison. She could hear him thinking. Ah, yes, Henry. How is he? I haven't seen him in years. Taylor's throat tightened. He passed away 3 weeks ago. Oh, my dear. I'm so sorry. He was a good man. Sharp as a tack, I remember. We talked about his garden and about his granddaughter who was going to college. That must be you. Yes, sir. Dr. Zhang, I'm calling because there's been a legal issue with his estate. Someone submitted an affidavit with your signature claiming you examined Grandpa in 2019 and found him cognitively impaired, confused and susceptible to suggestion. Silence. Then, I never said that. I never wrote that. Young lady Henry Morrison was one of the healthiest 78-year-olds I ever examined. His mind was completely sound. Do you still have your records from that appointment? I keep copies of everything. Scanned them all before I retired. Give me your email address. 30 minutes later, the email arrived. Attached was Dr. Zhang's complete file on Henry Morrison. The exam notes were detailed. Patient presents for annual physical. Alert and oriented X4. Excellent recall of recent and remote events. Discussed current events, demonstrated appropriate knowledge and reasoning. Scored 30/30 on mini mental state examination. No evidence of cognitive impairment. At the bottom, Dr. Zhang had added a note. Someone forged my signature on that affidavit. That's identity fraud. I'm happy to testify to that fact, and I'm reporting this to the Oregon Medical Board. Nobody uses my name to lie about a patient. Taylor sat staring at her screen, her hands shaking. They'd forged a doctor's signature. Her family had committed fraud. She called Jake back. They forged it. The medical affidavit is fake. Dr. Zhang never said Grandpa was confused. He's sending me the real records, and he'll testify. Jake let out a breath. Okay, that changes everything. Taylor, this isn't just an estate dispute anymore. This is fraud. They submitted a false document to the court. What do? We file a counterpetition. We expose the forgery. And we enforce the forfeiture clause. They came after your inheritance with fraudulent documents. They lose everything. Taylor and Jake worked 18-hour days for the next 2 weeks. She moved into his office, technically a spare bedroom in his apartment that he'd converted into a workspace, and they built their case piece by piece. The counterpetition was 22 pages. Each paragraph was backed by evidence. Paragraph 1, the conservatorship petition is without merit. Taylor Morrison is a competent adult with a stable work history, responsible financial management, and no history of mental health or substance abuse issues. Evidence: 3 years of employment records, bank statements showing consistent savings credit report with 780 score references from employers and professors. Paragraph 2. The petition is motivated by the petitioner's financial desperation, not concern for the respondent's well-being. Evidence: Riley Morrison's business judgment foreclosure notice on family home, Robert Morrison's SEC settlement, Patricia Morrison's LinkedIn activity. Paragraph 3. The medical affidavit submitted by petitioners is fraudulent. Evidence: Dr. Zhang's actual medical records, his written statement denying he made the claims in the affidavit, forensic analysis of the signature. Wait, they needed that forensic analysis. How much does a document examiner cost? Taylor asked. Jake checked. Between $500 and $2,000 depending on complexity. Taylor looked at her savings account balance. $12,200. She'd been so proud of that number. Now she was about to spend a chunk of it on expert witnesses. Do it. We need proof it's forged. The examiner, Dr. Sarah Kim, took 4 days. Her report was devastating to her family's case. The signature on the submitted affidavit does not match exemplars of Dr. Philip Zhang's signature from the same time period. The signature appears to have been digitally traced and then printed, a common forgery technique. Additionally, the notary seal does not match the registered seal of the notary listed in the document. This is consistent with fabrication of an official document. They had them. The counterpetition also included one more crucial element: enforcement of the forfeiture clause. Paragraph 4. Pursuant to Section 7, subsection D of the Henry Morrison Trust, petitioners have forfeited their entire interest in the estate by initiating legal action to deprive respondent of her designated share. Relief requested: 1. Denial of conservatorship petition. 2. Sanctions against petitioners for submitting fraudulent documents. 3. Enforcement of forfeiture clause. 4. Referral to district attorney for criminal investigation of fraud. Jake looked at the finished document. This is nuclear. You know that, right? If we file this, there's no going back. Your family loses everything. They already lost me when they called me incompetent and forged documents to steal from me. File it. Taylor signed the petition. Jake filed it electronically at 11:43 p.m. on a Thursday night. The confirmation email arrived immediately. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks out. That night, Taylor couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Riley's face at the will reading. The way he'd touched her shoulder said, "We're family." Had he known even then what they were planning? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Cousin Amanda. I know you probably don't want to hear from anyone in the family right now, but I had to reach out. What your parents are doing is wrong. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. If you need anything, a place to stay, someone to talk to, a witness who saw how Grandpa really was, I'm here." Taylor stared at the message. Amanda was Patricia's niece, 5 years older than Taylor. They'd been close as kids before the family dynamics got so toxic. Amanda had been at every holiday, every birthday party. She'd seen everything. "Thank you," Taylor typed back. "That means more than you know. I mean it. I'll testify if you need me to." Grandpa wasn't confused. He was the sharpest person I knew. And you didn't manipulate him. You loved him. There's a difference. Taylor saved Amanda's number. Having one person from the family who believed her felt like oxygen after drowning. The next morning, Richard Chen called Jake's office. "I've reviewed your counterpetition," he said, his voice tight. "These allegations are serious. Fraud, forgery, you're accusing my clients of crimes." "Your clients committed crimes," Jake said calmly. "They submitted a forged medical affidavit to the court. You have no proof. We have Dr. Zhang's testimony, his real medical records, and a forensic analysis proving the signature is fake. That's not an accusation, Mr. Chen. That's documentation." Silence. "I'd like to discuss a settlement." "We're not interested." "Ms. Morrison keeps her trust. My clients withdraw the petition. Everyone walks away. Your clients forfeit their inheritance when they filed the petition. Section 7, subsection D. It's over. The forfeiture clause is unconscionable. No court will enforce it." "Then I guess we'll find out in 3 weeks." Jake hung up. Taylor looked at him. "Think they'll withdraw?" "No. They're in too deep. Withdrawing means admitting they forged documents. They're going to fight and hope the judge doesn't enforce the clause." "But we have proof." "We do. But Taylor, you should prepare yourself. This hearing is going to be ugly. They're going to say terrible things about you, about Grandpa. They're going to try to make you look like the villain even though they're the ones who committed fraud." "I know." "Do you?" "Because I've seen people break in court. I've seen families torn apart. This isn't going to be like TV where you make a great speech and everyone sees the truth. This is going to be painful and messy, and there's a chance, a small one, but a chance that we don't win everything we want." Taylor thought about it. Thought about Grandpa's letter, his handwriting in the margins of the trust document. Trust but verify. "I'm ready." The San Francisco Superior Court building was all marble and intimidation. Taylor had been here once before for a field trip in her business law class. She'd thought it was beautiful then, the high ceilings, the light streaming through tall windows, the sense of history and justice. Now it just felt cold. She wore her one good suit, the same one from the will reading. Jake wore a navy suit that looked expensive, but probably wasn't knowing his student loans. They met outside Department 304, 3rd floor. "Remember," Jake said quietly, "don't react to anything they say. Stay calm. Let me handle the arguing." "Okay." "And Taylor, you're going to see them in there. Your parents, your brother. It's going to be hard. But you need to remember you didn't do this." "They did." She nodded, not trusting her voice. The courtroom was smaller than she expected. About 30 seats in the gallery, a judge's bench that looked imposing 2 tables for attorneys. Her family was already there, sitting in the front row with Richard Chen and another lawyer she didn't recognize. Patricia looked up as Taylor entered. For a moment their eyes met. Her mother's expression was hard angry, nothing like the sweet voice she used at family dinners or church. This was the real Patricia, the one who'd looked at Taylor her whole life and found her lacking. Robert didn't look at her at all. Riley did, and his face was complicated guilt, anger, desperation, all mixed together. Taylor took her seat at the defendant's table. Jake laid out their documents organized by colored tabs. "All rise." Judge Margaret Reeves entered. She was in her early 60s, gray hair pulled back in a bun, sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She sat, reviewed the file in front of her, and looked up. "This is an unusual case," she said. "We have a petition for conservatorship and a counter-petition alleging fraud and seeking forfeiture. Let's start with appearances." Richard stood. "Richard Chen and Jennifer Walsh for petitioners. Patricia Morrison, Robert Morrison, and Riley Morrison, Your Honor." Jake stood. "Jake Chen, no relation, and Taylor Morrison appearing pro se as co-counsel for respondent." Judge Reeves' eyebrows went up. "Ms. Morrison, you're representing yourself." Taylor stood, her voice steadier than she felt. "Yes, Your Honor. I was admitted to the California bar in March of this year." The courtroom went silent. She could feel her family's shock without looking at them. Richard's mouth opened slightly. Riley turned to their parents, whispering urgently. "You're a lawyer," Judge Reeves said. "Yes, Your Honor. I completed law school through Western State's evening program. It took 4.5 years while I worked full-time. I passed the bar on my first attempt." "Interesting. And you believe you're competent to manage a $1.2 million inheritance?" "I do, Your Honor." "We'll see. Proceed, Mr. Chen." Richard stood rattled. "Your Honor, this changes nothing. The petition stands. The respondent's recent bar admission doesn't negate our concerns about her judgment and her undue influence over the decedent." Counselor, Judge Reeves interrupted. Your petition claims Ms. Morrison lacks the capacity to manage her own affairs, but she just told me she passed the bar exam. Do you understand how difficult that is? Financial management and legal knowledge are different skills. Are they? The bar exam tests analytical reasoning judgment and the ability to apply complex rules, all skills required for financial management. Your petition is starting to look weak before we've even heard evidence. Richard's jaw tightened. We have substantial evidence of undue influence, Your Honor. The respondent isolated Henry Morrison from his family, manipulated him in his declining years. Let's talk about that. Judge Reeves picked up a document. You submitted a medical affidavit from Dr. Philip Jang stating the decedent showed cognitive impairment. Ms. Morrison, you have a response. Taylor stood. Jake handed her a folder. Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Jang never made that statement. We've been in contact with him. He's prepared to testify that the affidavit is fraudulent, that someone forged his signature. She handed copies to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge and to Richard's table. This is Dr. Jang's actual medical records from the examination in question. Grandpa Mr. Morrison scored perfectly on cognitive testing. Dr. Jang's notes describe him as sharp and fully competent. Judge Reeves read the documents carefully. The courtroom was silent except for the rustling of papers. Mr. Chen, did you verify this affidavit before filing? Your Honor, we received it from our clients. That's not what I asked. Did you personally verify it? No, Your Honor, but we had no reason to believe. You're an officer of this court. You have a duty to verify the accuracy of documents you file. Do you have an explanation for why this affidavit doesn't match the doctor's actual records? Richard looked at Patricia, who was pale. We would need to investigate. That's what I thought. Judge Reeves set the documents down. Ms. Morrison, you've alleged fraud. That's a serious accusation. Do you have additional evidence? Jake stood. Yes, Your Honor. We retained a forensic document examiner. Dr. Sarah Kim analyzed the submitted affidavit. Her report concludes that the signature was digitally traced, a common forgery technique, and that the notary seal doesn't match the registered seal for that notary. He handed over Dr. Kim's report. Judge Reeves read it, her expression growing harder. Mr. Chen, your client submitted a forged document to my court. Your Honor, if there was any irregularity, it was certainly unintentional. Unintentional forgery. Judge Reeves's voice was sharp. Counselor, someone created this document. Someone traced Dr. Zhang's signature. Someone fabricated a notary seal. That's not unintentional. That's fraud. She looked at Taylor's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, did you create this document? Patricia stood shaking. Your Honor, we found it in my father-in-law's papers. We thought it was legitimate. You found a medical affidavit from 2019 in his papers, a document that was supposedly notarized and signed by a doctor, and it just happened to say exactly what you needed it to say for your conservatorship petition. We didn't know it was fake. Sit down, Mrs. Morrison. Judge Reeves's voice was ice. She turned to Riley. Mr. Morrison, did you review the petition before it was filed? Riley stood slowly. Yes, Your Honor. Did you read this affidavit? Yes. Did it seem odd to you that a routine physical exam from 2019 would include notes about your grandfather being confused and susceptible to suggestion? Riley was quiet, then so softly Taylor almost didn't hear. Yes, it seemed odd. Did you question it? No, Your Honor, I wanted to believe it was real. Because it supported what you wanted to do. Yes, at least he was honest about that. Judge Reeves sat back. I'm going to be very clear about where we stand. The conservatorship petition is based substantially on a fraudulent document. Without that document, you have no evidence of the decedent's incapacity or of undue influence. The petition is weak at best, fraudulent at worst. She looked at Taylor. Ms. Morrison, you're seeking enforcement of a forfeiture clause. Explain it to me. Taylor stood, pulled out the trust document. Your Honor, my grandfather's trust includes Section 7, subsection D. Any beneficiary who initiates or participates in legal action to deprive another beneficiary of their rightful designated share shall immediately and irrevocably forfeit their entire interest in this trust. By filing this petition, my parents and brother triggered that clause. They forfeit the house, the investment portfolio, everything he left them. That's a harsh penalty. It was my grandfather's decision, Your Honor. He put it in the trust in 2018, 6 years before his death. He was fully competent. Then there's no dispute about that. He wanted to protect family members from exactly this kind of attack. Your Honor, Richard said desperately, the forfeiture clause is unconscionable. It's a penalty clause unenforceable under California law. Is it? Judge Reeves pulled out a legal pad. Forfeiture clauses have been upheld in California when they're clearly stated and serve a legitimate purpose. This clause is clearly stated. As for legitimate purpose, preventing family members from attacking each other over inheritance seems pretty legitimate to me. She looked at both sides. Here's what's going to happen. I'm continuing this matter for a full evidentiary hearing in 30 days. The conservatorship petition is not granted at this time. Mr. Chen, I'm putting you on notice if any other documents in your filing are fraudulent, there will be sanctions. Serious ones. She turned to Taylor's family. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, Mr. Riley Morrison, you have 30 days to withdraw your petition. If you withdraw, we'll address the forfeiture clause separately. If you proceed, I'll hear evidence on both the conservatorship and the counterpetition, including the fraud allegations. Your Honor, Richard started. I'm not done. I'm also referring this matter to the San Francisco District Attorney for review. Submitting false documents to a court is a crime. Whether charges are filed will be up to them, but be aware this is now a criminal matter. The gavel came down. Taylor sat frozen. She'd won the conservatorship was denied at least for now, but her family wasn't withdrawing. She could see it in her father's face, in the way Richard was already whispering urgently to them. They were going to fight. Even knowing they could face criminal charges, even knowing the forfeiture clause would cost them everything, they were going to fight. Outside the courtroom, Jake grabbed her arm. That went better than I hoped. The judge basically telegraphed that she'll enforce the forfeiture clause if they don't back down. They're not backing down. You don't know that. But she did, because she knew her family. They'd rather lose everything than admit she'd beaten them. Her phone buzzed. A text from Riley. Can we talk, please? She showed it to Jake. Should I? Not without a witness, and not alone. If you want to talk to him, I should be there. Taylor looked across the plaza at her family. Riley had separated from their parents and Richard. He was standing alone, hands in his pockets, looking lost. Against her better judgment, she walked over. Jake followed, staying a few feet back. Riley, he looked up. You're a lawyer. You've been a lawyer this whole time. For 8 months. I just didn't tell anyone. Why not? Because it was mine. The one thing I did that wasn't compared to you wasn't judged, wasn't taken away. Riley laughed bitterly. Taken away. Like I took things from you. Didn't you? Every birthday, every achievement, every moment that should have been mine, Mom and Dad gave it all to you instead. I didn't ask for that. You didn't refuse it either. They stood in silence. Finally, Riley said, I didn't know about the forged affidavit. I swear. Mom said she found it in Grandpa's papers. I should have questioned it. I should have checked. But I wanted it to be true. Why? Because if Grandpa was confused, it meant the will wasn't really his choice. It meant I hadn't failed him. Failed everyone. His voice cracked. My business is gone, Taylor. Everything I built, everyone who believed in me, it's all gone. I owe $340,000 I don't have. And the house, Grandpa's house, it's in foreclosure. We're losing it because Dad took out a mortgage to fund my company, because I promised I'd pay him back and I couldn't. That's not my fault. I know, but I thought if we had your money, we could fix everything. Pay off the debts, save the house, start over. I thought you'd understand. That family should help each other. Family should. Taylor's voice was hard. But you're not asking for help. You're trying to steal. You called me incompetent. You let Mom and Dad forge documents. You destroyed my reputation because you made bad decisions and don't want to face the consequences. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. He was crying now, not even trying to hide it. But Taylor, if you enforce that clause, we lose everything. Not just the money. Criminal charges. Dad could go to jail. Mom could lose her reputation at church. Her friends, everything she cares about. And me, I'm already bankrupt. This will destroy what's left. Taylor thought about it. About Grandpa's letter. About the forfeiture clause. About trust and verification and grit lasting longer than charm. You did this to yourselves. I know. You could have just been happy for me. Could have said congratulations. Could have let me have this one thing. I know, but you couldn't, because even now you think I don't deserve it. Riley looked at her, really looked at her. No, that's not true. You deserve it more than any of us. Grandpa saw that. I see it now, but seeing it doesn't change the fact that I'm drowning and you have a life raft. So I should drown too. No, but maybe you could throw me a rope. Taylor turned and walked away. Jake followed. That was hard, he said quietly. Yeah. Do you want to settle? We can negotiate something. They withdraw you, give them some money to cover their debts. No. Taylor's voice was firm. Grandpa put that clause in for a reason. If I don't enforce it, if I just roll over and give them money because they're family, then I'm teaching them that actions don't have consequences, that they can do whatever they want and I'll always bail them out. Even if it means they lose everything. They made their choices. Now they get to live with them. The courtroom was packed on June 12th. Taylor sat at the defendant's table with Jake and Margaret Hoffman, Grandpa's estate attorney, now co-counsel. Her family sat across the aisle with Richard Chen looking exhausted. Judge Reeves called the trial to order. Richard presented his case first. Patricia testified about her concerns, Robert about Taylor's inexperience. But Margaret's cross-examinations were surgical, exposing every lie, every inconsistency. When Riley took the stand, he was different. Honest. Did you believe Taylor manipulated your grandfather? Margaret asked. Riley looked at Taylor. No, she loved him. He loved her. I was just jealous of what they had. Then came the defense witnesses. Dr. Zhang testified via video about the forged affidavit. The forensic examiner proved the document was fake. Taylor took the stand and held her ground through Richard's attacks. But the moment that changed everything came when Margaret Hoffman testified as a witness. Henry Morrison added the forfeiture clause in 2018, she said. He told me it wasn't the first time someone in his family had tried to take his money. Taylor's head snapped up. What? Margaret produced a document. In 1987, Robert and Patricia Morrison sued Henry Morrison. They claimed he was incompetent to manage his hardware business. They wanted conservatorship. The case was dismissed, but it cost Henry $50,000 to defend himself. Twist number 5 revealed. The courtroom erupted. Robert was on his feet. That's sealed. It's public record, Margaret said calmly. Henry told me he'd never let anyone do that to his family again. That's why the forfeiture clause exists, to protect Taylor from the same thing he went through. Judge Reeves studied the 1987 case file, her expression hardening. The next day, she delivered her verdict. The conservatorship petition is denied. Taylor Morrison is clearly competent. Her mother gasped. The medical affidavit was forged. This is fraud upon the court. The forfeiture clause is enforceable. The 1987 case proves Henry Morrison had good reason to include it. Robert Morrison, Patricia Morrison, and Riley Morrison have forfeited their entire inheritance under Section 7, subsection D. Riley dropped his head to the table. Patricia sobbed. I'm imposing $25,000 in sanctions and referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. The gavel came down. The DA offered a plea deal, admit to forgery, pay restitution, 3 years probation, 200 hours community service. No jail time. They took it. Riley filed bankruptcy and got a job at Target. He started therapy and texted Taylor monthly, "Hope you're okay." She didn't respond for months. Her parents lost the house and moved to a small apartment. They never reached out. Taylor paid off her loans, bought a modest condo, and donated $400,000 to start the Morrison Family Education Fund. She opened her own law practice, helping people fight conservatorship abuse. In March, the first scholarship ceremony awarded funds to 5 students, all working multiple jobs, fighting for their education, just like she had. My grandfather believed that people who work hard deserve opportunities, Taylor told them, showing Grandpa's photo on the screen. This scholarship isn't charity. It's investment in people who earn it. 1 year after the trial, Riley called. Could we meet for coffee? I've been in therapy. I want to explain in person. Taylor hesitated. Send me your therapist's name. Trust but verify. Riley laughed sadly. Grandpa would be proud. I'll send it. They met at Lou's Cafe on a Saturday morning. Riley looked different, thinner, tired, but more present. I wrote down what I wanted to say, he said, hands shaking. He read from a paper. I spent our lives being handed everything while you earned everything. When my business failed, I couldn't face that I wasn't special, just enabled. When I learned about your inheritance, I thought, that should be mine. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Taylor was quiet. You know what hurt most? Realizing I was always disposable to you, to all of you. You're right. But Taylor, I work at Target now, $22 an hour. I ride the bus, and for the first time I'm proud because I earned it. I finally understand what Grandpa meant about grit. She studied him. The scholarship committee needs someone who understands failure, who's rebuilding. Want to help review applications? Riley's eyes widened. You'd trust me. Trial basis. But one more betrayal and you're gone forever. Understood. Thank you. They shook hands. Not forgiveness yet, but a start. August 2025. The second scholarship ceremony featured 10 students. Riley sat in back. He'd helped interview 3 of them. Amanda and extended family filled other rows. Her parents' seats remained empty. My grandfather used to say, family is who shows up, Taylor told the audience. Not who's supposed to show up, who actually does. Later, she visited Grandpa's grave for the first time since the funeral. Hey, Grandpa, she said, sitting by his headstone. You were right, about keeping receipts, about grit, about trust, but verify. She placed a photo of the scholarship recipients on his grave. They remind me of us, people who work for everything. The wind rustled the trees. She could almost hear him. I'm proud of you, kiddo. I know, she whispered. I'm proud of me, too. At home, she looked at 3 framed photos on her desk, Grandpa at Lou's Cafe, her bar certificate, the scholarship recipients, and a quote in his handwriting, love without respect is just control wearing a mask. Her phone rang. A new client, another elder abuse case. Morrison Family Law, this is Taylor. How can I help? She was ready.